mean, certainly at my school, the teachers were absolutely first-rate. But on the other hand, we had very little in the way of facilities and computers and language laboratories that are taken for granted in many state schools. And I think when people talk about more resources, they often mean more money being spent on these things, which in a sense are inessentials, and less money is being spent on what really matters, which is the quality of the teachers.
Rich children always make fun of poor children, I think.
The acquisition of sacks and sacks of money is not something that I set much importance by. I'm not money-minded, I would say, in that sense. On the other hand, it would be hypocritical to pretend that a lot of the things that I take for granted and my lifestyle is dependent on having a fair amount of money. But I can't say that the acquisition of more money is one of my main aims in life. We now have a house in the country which takes up a lot of our time and energies, and I seem to spend an awful lot of my time gardening furiously, trying to tame the wilderness that we inherited there. I'd have laughed if 10 years ago you'd have told me that I would spend most of my time digging herbaceous borders and things, but that's what I seem to do, and I enjoy it. One good thing about having quite a large house in the country now is that I've taken up playing the piano, because I always had a piano in London, but with work I never had time to practice, and now we've got room to house a piano in the country, and I find I am now practicing quite a lot and beginning to get it back a bit.
Certainly, I can never tell the difference between you playing and the CD playing when I'm out of the room. Yeah, very good. He's very good.
Well, she's very diplomatic.
No, it's true.
Does money concern you a lot?
No, I think as long as one has enough to be comfortable, that's really what one should aim for. We took the children skiing for the first time last year, at least Alexander, and he really enjoyed it.
Is the family unit the most important thing in your lives? More than your own ambition? Or
I'm not sure I have any ambition as such now. I mean, just to progress with my work and so on.
I think ambition probably changes once you've got children. Your outlook on life is no longer the same as it was before, and you can still have ambitions in the fact that you want to be successful in your work. But the end result is that if you're successful in your work, then you can enjoy your success with your children. And hopefully with your wife as well.
I think the more you've had out of the country, the more privileges you're born with, the greater your duty is. I still feel, as I did when I was 21, that it's important for people who have had advantages to try and put as much back and to help others less fortunate than themselves if they can. In England, as we all know, there's a perpetual debate about the National Health Service being starved of resources. But people who go on about the government butchering the National Health Service, I think should come over to Bulgaria to see what being kept short of necessary supplies and funds really does mean. But what we're doing is going around delivering drugs, firstly, that we've managed to purchase with monies so far raised by our appeal, and also at the same time trying to find out what it is that they really need so we can be sure that we're getting the right things through to the right destinations. We've been told that in some places it's impossible to do even operations, albeit they have the operating theatres and they have excellent doctors, for want of simple anaesthetics. In other places, for instance, the children's home at Vidrare, they're even lacking such simple things as soap and detergent. These are things that we can supply in England very painlessly, and yet here they really make a lot of difference.
The Bulgaria that I have known coming back with John has been a much more varied country, and it has been very enriching to travel around the country with John and to have the extra dimension of John having investigated to a great degree his family tree down through many generations and many centuries.
Second along there, my great-great-grandfather, who was the first Prime Minister of Bulgaria when the country was liberated from the Turks in 1879. Well, I think everyone needs to have a feeling that they belong somewhere. There's a plot of land or somewhere where they hail from and their roots are. Looking at it with a professional eye, I've dealt with worse than this in Northamptonshire. I don't think there's anything that couldn't be sorted out given 6 months or so, and a couple of house guests to stay.
Do you think you and Claire could live here?
Ask me that in 7 years' time.
I don't think much of the accents. Neither do I.
What's been the effect of being in these films on you?
I don't think there has been any effect, really. From time to time I meet someone who I've never met before who says, I think I've seen you somewhere before, haven't I? And I say, well, perhaps. I try not to talk about it.
It's Sean McInnes. You got 3 minuses in a day. He's a pest.
And I must say, I mainly laugh when I see myself at 7. Obviously, I said some shocking but extremely funny things in retrospect. It has to be said that I bitterly regret that the headmaster of the school where I was when I was 7 pushed me forward for this series, because every 7 years a little pill of poison is injected into...
I know.
Well, it's the truth. I dislike intensely being on television. I refused to do this programme last time round, and I'm only doing it this time because I see this as an opportunity to draw the attention of viewers in this country to the awful problems in Bulgaria, and in the hope that they may wish to do something to help the situation here.
I don't like the big boys hitting us and a prefect sending us out for nothing.
I know I prefer to be alone, really. I find it hard to express emotion most of the time. Although I'm getting on top of that more now, you know. I mean, just a simple thing to say to sort of Susan, you know, I love you, something like that. I mean, I can tell you about it, but I really haven't been able to say it freely to Sue, you know.
What was it that you fell in love with? What is it about him?
His helplessness, I suppose. It was the motherly instinct in me to pick him up and cuddle him, and he's also very good looking, I think, but he doesn't agree with me. And in the summer he's got this cute little bum in shorts. I mean, I can tell quite a few stories here, but the one that really irritates me the most is when we have an argument, he says, "That's it, leave me." And I say, "Fine, all right, I will one day." But that's it. You know, after all these years of marriage, we've been married for, what, 13 years now or something, and he still says, "You're leaving me." Well, one day I might just pack my bags and go, yes.
At 7, Paul was at a children's home in London. Were you happy at the children's home in England?
We didn't mind that, really, because we didn't know what was going on, because we were a bit young then. My mother and father they separated originally, I think. They eventually got divorced. I went to the boarding school for 1 year, and then we immigrated to Australia. My father got remarried.
How did you get on with your stepmother?
Pretty well, but like I said before, I mean, I'm not just not close, I'm not really close to my father either.
Emily, do you want some plan?
Do you have any regrets about the fact that you weren't closer to him when you were younger?
Yeah, I suppose it's all wasted time in a way, I suppose. But, I mean, he was always there, you know, I could always talk to him, but it was different.
A lot of people that go out to Australia and live, English people, they grow up without family, you know, and then all of a sudden Paul's come here and he's got all this family that he sort of half knew existed.
Now, the first one, the red brick one...
So Paul brought Sue and his 2 children, Katie and Robert, to visit the family for the first time. Do you think about England much when you're in Australia?
Only when the cricket's on.
I mean, I'm in awe of everything I see, because I've always wanted to come to London. I've always thought it'd be a great thing to do. And all of a sudden I'm here and I'm having a great time, and Paul and the kids are I'm just dragging them along behind like an anchor, you know. Come on, we're off. But no, it'll be really interesting, because I've always had lots of family, and I love this sort of stuff, you know. Bit of a show pony.
That's Graham and Paul.
When the crunch came and we were coming over here, I didn't want to do it. It's just something in me that holds me back. It's shyness or something, I'm not sure. I'm not really good at meeting new people, I guess. That toy.
Is there any way you would want to be a father any differently from the way your father was to you?
I'd like to be more contact close, actual physical contact close, because my dad and I are exactly the same like that. If we hug, it's unusual.
When we had Katie, when she was born, he said to me, I'm glad I've got a daughter. He said, when I'm an old man, at least she'll come up and she'll be able to give me a kiss and a cuddle.
Do you like to get married, Paul? Tell me why not.
I don't like say you had a wife, say you had to eat what they cooked you, and say I don't like greens, well I don't, and say she said you have to eat what you give, so I don't like greens, say she gives me greens, and that's it.
Yeah, divorce was something new to me. I think of what Paul's been through. I mean, Paul doesn't say it's very bad, but I wouldn't like that for my children.
What keeps this marriage together?
Learn to keep your mouth quiet at times. I don't know.
Tolerance, I think, really. I mean, we don't stew it. We have arguments, big arguments like anyone else. But we have spoken about this before. We don't seem to stew over it for any length of time now. We can be unbelievable together, like biting each other's heads off. But we don't. I mean, we'd never go to the next day.
This is one thing that the show's done to us, is that it makes you analyse things a bit more. Like maybe if the show hadn't been here, we may have split up, because you think, well, we can see what we were like a long time ago, and it brings it back to you. You think, well, we have this then. Often a lot of people grow apart and they can't see what they had originally.
I don't think the show could actually hold you together.
No, but what it's showing you is what you had in the past. Yeah.
In their 20s, Paul and Sue sold up, bought an old van and travelled through Australia.
I think it brought us closer together because we really got to know each other and relied on each other so much. It gave us our own peace of mind that we could settle down and now have a family, that we had done something. We hadn't just been nobodies and lived in suburbia all our lives. We'd done something that we were proud of, that we'd accomplished on our own. Being together so much, it was hard, but then we settled down, and we must have settled down really well because I got pregnant and everything, so something must have been going right.
The family settled down in a working-class suburb of Melbourne.
The mark taken by Watson,
Are you ambitious for your children, Paul?
I said something about wanting Robert to be a brain surgeon. That was a joke. I mean, like, if he's a brain surgeon, it would be well, but it'd be nice to let them go one step up from us, I think. At the moment, I'm pretty happy with Katie. I'm not having a go at Rob, but I've got fears for Robert because he's struggling a little bit. He's only been at school for 2 years, been in preps and grade 1. And he's had 3 teachers already that say they don't know how to motivate him.
What does university mean?
When the last show was on, I said to Robert, do you think you'll go to university? He goes, well, what's university? It just floored me. It just proves that high education isn't a major point to us. I mean, just getting him out of first grade was a major importance to us, and so university seems a long way off. And so we just take each year as it comes.
I was going to be a policeman, but I thought how hard it would be to join in.
I just haven't made up my mind yet. I was going to be a phys ed teacher, but one of the teachers told me that you had to get up into university.
At 21, Paul was working as a junior partner for a firm of bricklayers in Melbourne. By 28, he had gone out on his own as a subcontractor, but it didn't work out. Since then, he's had a variety of jobs in the building trade.
Well, I'm more of a tradesperson than a business person, really. I've never had any business training, and if I've got natural ability, I probably haven't used it. Where did the confidence go? I mean, did I lose it because of it, or did I never have it? I think the confidence was never there. I think it might run in the family somewhere, sort of thing.
I think maybe it's the lack of security that he felt when he was a child, perhaps. That's my theory alone. I mean, that's the old thing, isn't it? When one of your parents are taken away from you, you lack security.
And the monitor's up in the washroom, sending us out when there's no talking. No, I wasn't talking.
Katie now has this saying, oh, you know me, I'm hopeless. And it's just Paul, oh, you know me, I can't do this. And it's sort of like this defeatist attitude type of thing. But, I don't know, I just ignore it and just go along my merry way, I suppose. He has got better. I think as you get older, maturer, your confidence does come to a point.
I really went through a stage, it might seem stupid because it's only a bricklayer, like I failed. But something happened with that job and I started to look at what we had and think, well, what do you want out of life? What's so bad about what we got?
Do the two of you have a dream now?
I've always wanted to move to the country and I wouldn't mind a small property. It doesn't have to be big or flash. It's more relaxed style living and an attractive sort of lifestyle.
We've just been together for so long, we just sort of plod along together. Yeah, I enjoy his company and he enjoys mine most of the time, yeah. I know that he's going to come home to me every night. I'm going to have someone there. He's very secure that way.
She does put up with a lot. I can't be that easy to live with. I'm nice, but I'm not that easy to live with.
Well, we pretend we've got swords and we make the noises of the swords fighting and then when somebody stabs us we go, ah.
I think if you're healthy and have good friends, you can get on perfectly well. But everybody would like to be rich.
I came to London and I contacted an agency for squatters and they were able to give me the address of somebody who was able to help people who were looking for accommodation in the London area.
But you've kicked against the stability that's...
I don't think I ever had any stability, to be quite honest. I can't think of any time in my life when I ever did. I don't think I've been kicking against anything. I think I've been kicking in mid-air the whole of my life. I've been moving about a bit between different places, really. I'm a bit unsettled, but I'm very shortly moving to live in digs.
At 28, Neil was roaming around Britain. We found him on the west coast of Scotland.
If the state didn't give us any money, it would probably just mean crime. And I'm glad I don't have to steal to keep myself alive.